4 days later, here we are with a lot more big news. We'll just go ahead and get right into it because you're already reading what the title of this video is and the first thing on this whiteboard is. And that's that Falcons are signing Dralii. Actually, that's not even signing. That's not even like are going to. That is have done. They have signed and announced the signing of Dralii. Yeah. Here we go. TRK's been moved to the bench, so Dralii's going to be alongside Rawas and Clears for next year. It's rumored that he's going to have the highest paying contract in RLE sports history. He's getting paid the absolute bag. I know last week I talked about how Karmine Corp, he was going to be a free agent after this year, and it could turn into a nothing burger, but we weren't quite sure. That being said, it's definitely not a nothing burger. He has joined Falcons. I'll talk about the whole Karmine Corp side of the situation later, but at least in terms of TRK, not quite sure what's going to happen with his contract because I know he's signed through Falcons for a little bit longer, but he is being eyed by Twisted Minds for the next season. That being said, I apologize for Twisted Minds fans that I did not draw your logo this time. I kind of expected this section to be a little bit smaller, and I will be reporting on more stuff from Twisted Minds, plenty more later on through this season. So I'll have definitely more opportunities to draw that. But two big news with Twisted Minds. They're at least eyeing TRK. I mean, Nobu tweeted out, I think he might have deleted it by now, but he was tweeted out like, TRK, what's up, dude? Right after the Falcons news got announced. But at least Minds have extended Nobu through 2028. I know I mentioned last time that we weren't quite sure if Nobu was going to continue with Twisted Minds. This is a very clear indication that Nobu is continuing with Twisted Minds. So at least the top two in MENA are starting to take shape, and it's also looking to be a very solid top two. Karmine Corp side, I'll go ahead and say they've got Juicy lined up to replace Dralii. This is very much expected to happen at this point. And then they tried to re-sign Dralii back in March. I think there was like a verbal agreement. They had everything ready to go. And then without realizing it, Falcons kind of came in and was like, yeah, we got this offer. And it was hard to the highest paying contract in RLE sports history. So hard to just immediately decline that, right? And the chance to play with the Twins. So Karmine Corp, obviously bummed to not keep Dralii. Curious to see what Juicy does with this team. He's a solid player in his own right. He's obviously not Dralii, but there were only 3 players in the world that you could ever get to replace Dralii. 2 of them being the Twins that Dralii went to play with, and then one of them being Zen. None of those 3 players were ever going to be on the market. So I think Juicy's a very solid pickup, especially based on the options available, and I'm curious to see how they do next year. Vitality. Double whammy with Vitality here. The first one, we'll just start out calmly, and then we'll definitely ramp up into it. Cassio retires from coaching the RLCS. So he won Worlds with BDS in 2024, coached Vitality this year in 2025. He had some success with Semper, and I can't remember exactly what year he got into coaching, honestly. But he's been around for a long time. Cites the fact that, it's probably best for him, like health-wise, mentality-wise, to step away from the super tough competitive side of things. So it was a personal decision. I know there's plenty of like Zen general manager jokes. They're not necessarily jokes because he does basically have the keys to the team. And honestly, can you blame Vitality for giving the prodigy Zen the keys to the team? That being said, this was not just Zen kicking him off the team after bad results. This was very much Cassio's own decision. In terms of stuff that is a little bit more Zen's decision, potentially, they're targeting Firstkiller as their new third. So at least if this were to go through, it'd be Zen, Exotic, and Firstkiller. It's looking like Zen and Exotic are much lined up for next year. I haven't heard any rumors about Exotic being replaced. So that being said, this is not a done deal. A lot of the stuff that I put on this board and report on is normally stuff that is reported by Shift or Achilles. Achilles is the guy who founded Shift. And normally when they put stuff out, it's like going to happen. It's 100%. His track record is through the roof. And I know there's plenty of stuff that he hears that he could report on that he declines to report on because it's not official and doesn't necessarily need to be out there. This Vitality to Firstkiller rumor came from a leaker that's much more on the Valorant side of things that was hearing some stuff. Achilles has confirmed that these talks are true. It's not like there's no smoke here. So that's definitely why it's on this board. But it's not 100%. Right now I'm hearing it's around 50-50 whether or not Firstkiller is going to actually go with it. If he doesn't go with it, he's got plenty of North America offers as well. But if Firstkiller doesn't end up going to Vitality, they've got a backup option. So they've got the first choice lined up. They've got the second choice lined up. So that does scream Zen Exotic still sticking on Vitality. Curious to who their coach is going to be. Heard a little bit about what that could be, but haven't heard anything official. There's plenty of coaches out there that are French that could step up here. So, Gentlemates. They're set to sign Oski and Nass. This has got to be exciting if you're a Gentlemates fan, when the past week it's been a little bit unsure if they're going to continue in the scene. I can't remember exactly how I phrased it last week, but I know there was like grumblings of if they couldn't get a competitive roster, they weren't going to be fielding a roster. Sorry, I said roster too much there. But they definitely got a competitive roster. Screw it. I'll say it again. Oski and Nass, 2/3 of that Ninjas in Pajamas duo that everyone expected great things of all year. They obviously disappointed during the regular season. But then when Radosin came in for Itachi for the LCQ, they ended up winning it and going on a top 8 run at Worlds. So definitely a solid duo with Oski and Nass. Not too surprising that Radosin was a temporary plan. I think he played his part well and definitely elevated his stock, especially compared to where it was after Split 1. How I mentioned with Gentlemates, we know that Seiko and Juicy were going to be unrestricted free agents, but Eugen is still under contract, and he was going to be a restricted free agent. That being said, he's unlikely to be the third for this team. I know they're trying out plenty of options. They're probably going to get whatever option, maybe not whatever option they want, because Vitality is still a roster, but there's plenty of options for them to pick up, and I don't think they're super interested in Eugen. So a little bit of a bummer for him, as he'll still have to find someone to get him out of this contract. But that's the Mates situation. And last but not least, Dignitas players are all exploring their options. Heard plenty of different tryout rumors for all of these guys. And so not quite sure where they're going to, like, if one of them's going to continue under their organization, if the organization's not going to mess with them. Like, this is still very much all up in the air. But it doesn't surprise me that they might all, they're at least exploring their separate ways, right? It was cool to see the apparently Jack and Joria's reunion on Dignitas after they took a few years apart from each other. They were on Dig, 3 years ago with Scrub Killa, which was really exciting to see the run back. But it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they made finals in Raleigh, which was obviously great, but they had a disappointing Birmingham and a disappointing Worlds for their standards. So, makes sense to test the market. That being said, that's all we got for this week. And I'll have the members for the channel scroll across the top, because really appreciate all of them. Shout out to you guys. And yeah, I'm hoping to do these roster videos, like the rumor videos, once a week. So Mondays at noon, that's kind of the time slot. That's when I'll be releasing stuff. Maybe if something super big happens during the week, I'll throw a random midweek video in there. But in terms of the big ones, this is the big one. Welcome to the off season. We'll hopefully get you guys through it. November 14th is a lot less far away than January 1st. So thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.